So yeah, it was great to see the defensive intensity tonight. And a lot of times defense can turn offense. That's pretty much how this team went on the run that they went on in the second half of the year. They had a really stagnant offense for a lot of last year. And then when they started turning it up on the defensive end, they could get out and run more, score in transition. You know, a guy that comes to mind obviously is Jaylen Brown, who's great at that. Now we can get into Jaylen Brown whenever you guys want to, if you do want to. People say we don't talk about
Yeah, I
Jaylen
wanted
Brown.
to.
People say we don't talk about Jaylen Brown on the show. Well, they might not like what we have to say when we do talk about him on a night
Yeah,
like tonight.
John would have ran. We would have led with that. We would have led with Jalen.
John would have led with Brown. Yep.
Yeah.
Probably.
What are we
And you know,
doing here?
if yeah, I know. What are we talking about here?
Give us a
But if
decent
you want to,
performance.
if yeah,
This
and
game is done, you would have said.
7 turnovers. Wow. Yeah, it was bad. Couple of travels. You had a couple offensive fouls from him. Again, this was something I saw on Friday. I wrote about it that night in the BSJ recap. Saturday, I don't think it was much better. He shot well in that game, but he's just dribbling into nowhere. And I feel like he's taking a step back with the ball handling, which is disappointing. I did see him in camp at times working on it, and it didn't even look great in camp for some reason. And I know people have talked about his hand size and stuff, and again, like he's not his hand size. Like I think that plays into it. People have talked about he doesn't have the biggest hand, so that's like a reason that he's not as good of a dribbler as some other players. But he's been in the league a long time at this point. He's had stretches in his career where he's gotten better with it. And for some reason, it's not even the dribbling right now, right?
Tiny
it's where
Hands
he's
Brown.
going.
Are you calling him Tiny Hands Brown?
Well, that's the dribbling part. The awareness part is the big one, right? So Dylan Brooks, who was terrible in this game, missed a layup at one point. I think he got right by Brown on the play. Brown gets the board back, and I think he just dribbles right into Brooks again after that. And
Or you talking about the backcourt steal?
Yeah, the backcourt steal, and then he ends up playing. So they end up scoring on that play. This is really concerning because, again, we know he's not the best dribbler in the world. Why is he just dribbling into nowhere? That's my thing, because he wasn't doing that last year.
He kind of was. Well, not into nowhere, but he would rack up turnovers, especially in that.
Yeah, there'd be big turnover games, but again, it was the dribble. It was the loose dribble. A guy would strip him, maybe travel like we saw at points tonight. But in these last couple of games, I just see him dribbling in the places where there's no end to the play. He just ends up throwing the ball out again to a teammate and hoping that they can get it out of there once he gets trapped. And there are good setups for him at times where he's rolling downhill and then he makes a quick pass out of the post. That's usually where he ends up looking great. But when he's setting up the play, it almost doesn't look like he knows where the end's going to be for that sequence.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of reminds me of it's like that one player in a pickup game, which is
it's a consistent problem.
Yeah, it's like it's not cohesive with the rest of the team. But again, I always say in the open floor when they're in attack mode and fast break, I mean that's when he's at his best. And I also think Memphis Grizzlies just did a really good job of cutting off the corners and defending him, but not to make excuses, for Jaylen, but because there are stretches where he just seems to just lose control of the ball or seems to be attacking the rim, but without a path in mind. Sometimes he kind of just tries to run through the defense and it doesn't work out for him. But yeah, he's got to figure that out. He's got to find a way to stay in the zone, stay in the game. You talk about his awareness. I think that's an interesting point as well. It seems like, sometimes he's sort of out of sync with the rest of the team. So I'm not sure what that's about.
Did you call him Baby Hands Brown?
Nah, someone else just made that up.
I'm reading right now. So Jaylen Brown has 8.75. I don't know how they have width on hands. So all right.
Oh, you're looking this up.
Yeah,
you're actually looking this up. I thought you were about to give us a stat, but no, you are.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's saying plus minus because that wasn't good today.
So again, I don't know how to stack this up against other players, but 8.75 inch length, 9-inch width.
All right. Let's just keep it moving. Let's just talk about something. Before somebody clips that.
By comparison, Giannis 9.85.
You don't need to compare. You don't really need to compare.
So he's what, about an inch behind some of the bigger hands in the league.
Pause. I'm gonna pause.
John's cringing somewhere.
We're gonna let Bobby take it. We're gonna let.
Did
Bobby
you
take
just
a
dump
breather for a
Bobby?
second. We're gonna let Bobby take a breather for a second.
You just put him in a penalty box right now?
No, he's back. All right, he's good now. He's good. He's good. He's good. He's
I just
good.
wait again. I didn't pull that out of thin air. That's a
I don't.
fact.
No, we
I
believe you.
bet
We
you
believe
didn't.
you.
I bet you didn't. I was thinking more with Jaylen. It's
Jimmy goes, pause.
to me, it's not so much the hands. I think it's
It's
more.
not the hands. It's not
it's-
the dribbling. It's right now. It's the awareness.
It's the head. It's the head. It's up here is what I'm thinking right now for Jaylen. I don't know if,
Yeah,
if
he
maybe
like
he's.
checks. I don't want to say checks out, but maybe he just sort of is a step behind sometimes. I guess that's a better way to put it.
Mhm.
I
But it
think it's an approach. Everybody on this offense right now knows their role. They're
But we
they're
saw
in
that
the
a lot
positions.
last year. Maybe not a lot, but we saw that. But we've seen this before, right?
We've
Like, this
seen
is
it when I think he tries to go into creation mode, and there's some stretches where I think you want to utilize his downhill activity, his ability to get into the lane and draw at contact, especially in transition. Like you want him handling the ball in transition because he's gonna get right to the rim ahead of everybody, draw contact, and score. Let's not forget he was great in the fourth tonight. I thought he answered so well to just being completely out of it in the third. He had a couple downhill drives and looks a really tough finish through traffic at one point there. He had a steal on John Conchar and drew that clear pass foul that Hauser got a couple free throws on. So he was everywhere in the fourth. This wasn't a bad Brown game. It was a bad Brown start. And it's just some things we've seen from him throughout this season so far that have limited him from being the player he can be, which is what's he aiming for this year? All-Star, All-NBA. He wants to be eligible for that big contract.
I had
He's
him
got to
all
be better
NBA.
than this.
My bold
We
prediction. I
were
think it
talking
was.
about him being neck and neck with Tatum, and Tatum has taken a huge leap. Brown, a guy who throughout his career to this point has gotten better every single year, doesn't look better coming into this year.
Well, the one thing I don't want to do is take Tatum's, kind of ascension here or growth and elevation. I don't want to use that against Brown because maybe last year it was Brown who, we saw at the start of the season really take a huge leap, and maybe it was Tatum who kind of had a slower start, and we were talking about this in the opposite sense. So, again, I know that we're a handful of games into the year, and everyone has, their opinions on what they're seeing out there, and for me, it's not so much look how much better Tatum is than Brown. It's just, wow, Tatum's really, really good right now. He's on one. And maybe that means that both players can't be playing, at that elite level at the same time. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be games where Brown can get there. But I think sometimes you just got to let the dog eat, and right now Tatum's that dog and everybody else is just feeding him. And, that includes Brown. And in some games it might be Brown being that guy or, so.
Right.
It's just the way it is right now. I hope that's, I know that also they, there were some off the court, sort of distractions for Jaylen Brown for a bit. I don't know if that's bothering him.
I don't think I'm not gonna go there. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
I thought that too, Jimmy, and I was like, yeah, and then I just thought what Bobby just said, right? I was like, I don't know.
I'm
But-
completely wrong. Okay, that's cool. Next.
I mean, it's
No, but I
possible.
mean, it can't help to be having to answer those types of questions. I mean, I even saw another quote today about, now it's about Kyrie. Before it was about Kanye. It's like it can't just be about basketball right now with him. There's other things going on, and I
There's
know
a lot
that,
going on. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I don't know
I
if
mean-
I'm not saying that that's it. I'm just trying to think of reasons why maybe
Yeah.
he doesn't look completely like himself or completely engaged out there the way we've seen him in past. Because we know, skill wise, we know he put the work in over the offseason. We know he's got the skills to, be, a better player than what we've seen. So I don't know what it is. It could just be an off couple of games, and he'll get back to what he's good at doing again. But there is definitely something off with him, and certainly when you compare it to the way Tatum's playing right now, yeah, it's going to look even more drastic. But I just think Tatum will make anybody look like a lesser basketball player out there right now. That's just how he's playing the game. Everything's coming a lot easier to him. I think the biggest knock I used to have on Tatum and Brown was that it was so hard for them to everything was so hard for them. Getting baskets, scoring, getting to the line. Everything was so difficult, but it feels like with Tatum right now, he just gets into a mentality where he just wants to be a killer, and he goes out there and does it. And I don't think Jaylen Brown has that mentality right now.
Well, to give
Right.
Brown
And I
some
think
credit,
Tatum. Well, I just think Tatum's adapted quicker, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's whether people want to say it's him taking another step in his, progression. Sure, okay, because that's what he's been doing his first month of the season, and I think he's gonna come into his own. I mean, look, whether it's 46, 47% from the floor, like that's who he is. That's his track record. So I don't think this year will be any different. If anything, it's encouraging that he's averaging over 24 points a game because that's only going to go. I mean, his shooting percentage will only go up. And I think one of the things that, again, just if we're talking about the two, comparing the two, who's having the better start compared to the other, Tatum's also just been doing a good job of reading defenses. I mean, Bobby, I think you're spot on with sometimes the direction that he's going in isn't the best option. And Tatum has just been quicker with reading opposing defenses and making those decisions quick than Jaylen Brown, who sometimes takes a few more dribbles before he realizes what he wants to do. And defenses are hip to that. He's in game plans. Teams are scouting for him at a higher level now compared to last year. So he's going to adjust, though. I'm not concerned about it, but I think the Celtics are in really good shape despite that, right? I mean, once that comes along, it'll only help this team and this team's offense and the way they've been clicking right now. So.
And yeah, to clarify here, I don't think any of us are saying he's playing bad. He's having a solid start.
No, I'm not saying he's playing bad. He's just not playing up to the level that we've seen him play. And there are definitely some instances where he looks, I don't want to say disengaged, but he just doesn't look as, he's not Jaylen Brown out there.
I could clip a million.
Sharp. Thank you. Sharp.
I could clip a million plays. I could clip a million plays right now of him driving into nowhere. We've seen it again and again.
Right.
And when you look,
I don't know what this means. What does this mean? JT 2.8
turnovers, which
turnovers.
Tatum has the ball.
Okay,
Tatum has the ball a lot more.
2.8 turnovers a game. Gotcha.
Tatum has the ball a lot more. So
cool. Don't worry about that.
You can say whatever. What was the one? Someone sent like a wacky trade, but they put in $20, so it was like, all right, we'll entertain it.
Yeah, I wouldn't just look at the stats and be like, oh, they're both averaging 2.8 turnovers a game. They must both be playing equally this way or that way. You got to watch the games to really see, and I'm sure that commenter does. But it goes
watch
kind of
the
beyond. It goes beyond this. You can't just
use the eye test.
You can't just read the sheet music. You got to listen to the song.
That's the thing, right? There could be plays where Brown dribbles into nowhere and gets it out to someone, and it's not a turnover, but it's still not exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, well, you don't have a whole lot of time when he does that thing where he jumps in the air, turns around, and has like 2 seconds to make a decision. Like
we've seen him do that a couple of times too, right? And those have been assists because he gets it over to Tatum and he hits it. But overall, I think he's still acclimating to this role he started to embrace last year, where he's more of a finisher. I think he's playing off of Tatum, Brogdon, the pressure those guys are drawing, and when he's at his best, he's playing close to the basket. His shot has slipped a little bit over the last 2 years here. So again, I think you'd rather see him near the basket more than shooting a ton of threes. And that's a bigger conversation we're having with this team right now in terms of how many threes they're shooting. So I think he's still finding his place in all of this. It's just about cutting down the turnovers. I think being more direct in his offense and, more often than not, embracing that finisher role. So here's the thing, and he's talked about this early this year. He still has aspirations for becoming a facilitator, a playmaker. What Ime kind of saw in him to some degree. And Tatum has kind of taken that and run with it more than Brown has. But I feel like it's been a challenge for Brown. In fact, at one practice, he was just doing pick and roll after pick and roll with Kabengele, really trying to get that down. And he doesn't get the opportunities to do it as often as others. Maybe if he was in a different situation where he was the star of a team, he'd be able to take strides with that. But on this team right now, his job prevents him from becoming this great playmaker. So it's going to be interesting because he's been very clear. He wants to become a playmaker. He wants to become a facilitator. And when you have Smart, when you have Brogdon, when you have Tatum, when you have Horford even, who I think has been great at times passing the ball over the last couple games here, there's not necessarily a ton of opportunity for Brown to have the ball in his hands and make some things happen outside of transition.
So you're saying he feels left out? What you're saying, Bob?
Facts, my dog.
I think he wants to grow and expand his game. And, it's a balance, right? Because you'd love to see him.
Well, he had a chance to win the game the other night, Bobby. What did he do? He didn't.
It's a balance.
Through, right?
I like that. It's a balance. That's what I always say when I have no idea.
He'll get his spots. He'll get his spots.
When I have no idea what else to say.
Yeah,
it's a balance.
Tim just said, then fix your handles.
Oh man,
What else you guys
again,
got?
I'm just trying to provide some insight. It's a possible explanation. It wasn't a diss. All right,
Okay.
what do we got? Another
Getting along.
$5 flowing in. Tatum has the ball more, but Brown leads the team in shot attempts. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Is that true?
I don't know. You posted it. It better be true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's what when I posed in the bold predictions that Brown was going to be right there, if not surpassing Tatum in terms
You
of
said
scoring.
more. You said more.
Yes. So this is what I predicted. Tatum would be focusing more on playmaking. Brown would be focusing more on scoring. It's just that Brown's efficiency, and we've known Brown to shoot like 50, sometimes 54% from the field. He's at 45% to start this year. I don't know what you guys are seeing in terms of like why that efficiency has dropped off.
I ain't got
I
no
mean,
clue,
the
dude.
offense is a bit, the pace of it is different now compared to last year. I mean, that could be part of it as well. And then also, you're not capitalizing.
Good point.
You're not capitalizing on those defensive stops that was your backbone last year, right? That was the identity of your team.
Good
We're
point.
hoping it's going to come
Transition.
along. Yeah, I mean, we're thinking it's going to come along soon, not just because of Rob Williams will be back. And I don't know. Well, soon wouldn't be for Rob Williams, but you're hoping that this team can find a way to improve defensively, even though their offensive numbers are through the charts. But I think that plays a part, especially for someone like Jaylen, who got a lot of those. He was the main beneficiary of a lot of those stops in the fast break and transition.